They said no one would notice if I disappeared, so I shut off everything they needed to survive. Laughter echoed while I stood frozen with a plate of untouched cake. 2 taps on my phone was all it took. No rent, no bills, no lifelines. They didn't even notice me leave. Until their world started collapsing. Hit like if you've ever been the family fixer, and walk away stronger by subscribing for more stories like this. Hi, I'm Aaron, 35, and 3 months ago I burned my entire life to the ground. Family, home, history, because of a single sentence said between a giggle and a slice of cake. It started at my niece's birthday party, 13 years old, grinning like the world already owed her everything. She peeled the plastic off the brand new $850 phone I bought her, a gift I couldn't afford but gave anyway, because that's what I always did. Provided, fixed, carried. She looked at the screen and giggled. Mom says, if you disappeared tomorrow, no one would even notice. The words hit like a slap I didn't see coming. The room erupted. Laughter. Not the nervous kind either. It was full, unapologetic, from every corner of the house. My dad raised a beer. She's not wrong, he muttered with a chuckle. My cousins doubled over. Even my Aunt Brenda, who once cried on my couch for 3 hours about her divorce, smiled. My sister Lindsay, the birthday girl's mom, didn't even look up, just kept scrolling through her phone with a smug twitch on her lips. That little smile, that was the worst part, like this was some inside joke, and I was the punchline. My mom stood at the kitchen island, stirring something she wasn't really cooking, her back to me. But I saw the way her shoulders lifted, like approval had just been whispered down her spine. And me? I stood there, holding a plate of cake I hadn't even taken a bite of, my throat so tight I couldn't swallow. I smiled, nodded, pretended like it didn't carve through me like a dull knife. That's what I did. I nodded. I smiled. Always the helper, always the fixer, never the favorite. The candles were lit. My niece made a wish I'll never know, but I made mine with my hands in my pocket, 2 taps on my phone. That's all it took, 2 taps to shut off every payment I managed. Lindsay's rent, Dad's credit cards, Mom's utilities. Gone. They didn't know it yet, but the party was already over. I slipped out during the singing. No one noticed. Of course they didn't. I didn't drive home. I drove to my apartment with a kind of numb clarity, like the world had finally stopped dragging me behind it. I walked inside, grabbed my old black backpack from the closet, the one I used in college, frayed on the straps, faint smell of dust, and placed it on the bed. Not to pack clothes. No, clothes were replaceable. My sanity wasn't. I filled it with every receipt, every document, every printed confirmation email showing the bills I'd paid for them over the years. I printed copies of text messages, the ones where they guilted me, demanded things, called me selfish for not dropping everything to fix their messes. I added bank statements with highlighted sections like a deranged accountant with a grudge. And on top of it all, I placed a single letter. Simple, direct. It read, "This is everything I ever was to you." I zipped the backpack. The sound was final, like a curtain closing. Then I drove back to the house. 30 guests still mingled, laughing, eating leftover cake. I walked through the front door unnoticed, like a ghost. I left the backpack at the bottom of the stairs. Not hidden, not dramatic, just waiting. Then I left without looking back. The silence lasted until morning. The pounding on my apartment door started at 7:14 a.m. Not a polite knock, full-on fists slamming like someone trying to break in. I didn't need a peephole to know who it was. "Aaron, open this door!" Dad's voice. Furious, loud, cracking like it was too big for his throat. I didn't move. "You think you can do this to us? You think you can just cut us off?" I leaned against the wall, listening. His voice wasn't just angry. It was scared, terrified even, of the bills, the debt, of responsibility. Eventually, he left. 20 minutes later, my phone buzzed. "Mom, how could you do this to your own family?" Then calls from Lindsay. 6 in a row. I watched her name flashing like a fire alarm and let every call die on its own. Finally, a text. You think you're so clever? Fine. See how long you last without a family. I snorted. Clever? No, just done. That evening came the real shock. I'd just stepped out of the shower when my front door unlocked. Someone had a key. Dad burst in, red-faced, sweating, rage vibrating off him. Mom right behind, shaking, breathless. You think you can lock us out of our own lives? He barked. This isn't your life, I said, toweling my hair. It's mine. Get out! You can't speak to us like that, Mom shrieked. We raised you. You used me, I said. Big difference. Dad stepped forward, fist clenched. I didn't flinch. Try it, I said, calm, cold. His hand trembled but didn't rise. Mom's voice cracked. The mortgage, the cards, the bills, everything is frozen. I know, I said. I tapped twice. Their faces twisted. Rage, fear, disbelief. You're going to regret this, Dad spat. No, I said. For once, you are. They left. Slammed the door. Threatened, cried, begged, all in one chaotic storm. But the door stayed closed. And so did I. They didn't stop, not even close. My phone became a slot machine of emotional manipulation. Anger, guilt, panic, looping endlessly. I silenced it, tossed it in a drawer, and went about my day like a man who had finally found the mute button on hell. But my family? They escalated. Lindsay showed up at my office 2 days later. I saw her through the glass, mascara smeared, hair in a frantic knot, pacing in heels she clearly threw on mid-meltdown. She spotted me instantly and waved both arms like an inflatable tube man having a seizure. I stayed seated, typing. My boss peeked over. Do you know her? No, I said without looking up. Security removed her within minutes. That night, the landlord knocked, shifting from foot to foot like a man trying to step around a crime scene. Your, family is downstairs, he said. They're making a scene. Call the police, I said. But they're your... No, I corrected. They're not. He didn't argue. For a few days, things quieted. I even allowed myself to hope they'd finally give up. But then Dad sent the message. Something so weird, so out of character, I knew immediately it was bait. Son, let's settle this like men. No drama. Come talk. Our team's playing this weekend. Meet me there. My stomach dropped. A public place, a crowd, noise. Perfect for an ambush of guilt and theatrics. I went anyway. Section 12, row F. Dad sat alone despite the sold-out stadium. Empty seats around him like he'd built a moat out of awkward tension. And in his lap was the black backpack. My backpack. He waved me over with a smile stretched too wide. When I sat beside him, he leaned in close enough I could smell the sour beer on his breath. You thought you were clever leaving this behind, he said, tapping the backpack. But we know everything. Open it, I said calmly. His eyes flickered. Not with confidence, but fear. We didn't need to. We already know you were hiding money from us, stealing even. I laughed once, sharp, humorless. Stealing? Dad, that bag is filled with proof of everything I paid for, everything you took. His jaw twitched. You think anyone here will believe that? You brought the evidence, I said. Not me. The crowd roared as the home team scored, but all I felt was the heat of his desperation melting under the stadium lights. His grip on the backpack tightened until his knuckles whitened. He was trembling. Actually trembling. You ungrateful little... Say it, I said. Say what you really think. He snapped. Stood up. Shouted. Drew stares. He wanted a scene. He wanted me to react, to look unhinged. Instead, I unzipped the backpack, pulled out the stack of bills, receipts, and bank statements, and hurled them into the air. Papers fluttered down the bleachers like snow. That's the truth, I said. You needed me. You drained me. And now you're drowning without me. Dad's face collapsed, not in guilt, but in the horror of losing control. I stood, walked up the stairs, and didn't look back even when he yelled my name until his voice cracked. That was the moment, right there, under the blinding stadium lights, when I realized I wasn't just done with them. I was free. After the stadium fallout, I expected silence, a retreat, maybe even some self-reflection. But no. My family responded like toddlers denied a toy. Louder, more dramatic, and infinitely more annoying. The next morning, my phone vibrated non-stop. I made the mistake of turning it on. A flood of voicemails. Dad's voice, brittle with rage, crackled through. "You embarrassed me in front of hundreds of people. You think that makes you strong? You think we won't fight back?" Then came Mom's message, her voice trembling with performative heartbreak. "Aaron, I don't know what's gotten into you. We're your family. You're hurting everyone." Then Lindsay, first a barrage of insults. Coward, traitor, selfish parasite. Then, minutes later, a complete emotional pivot. "Please, just talk to me. We're drowning here." And yet, not one apology, not one word of real accountability. Just panic. Just scrambling. They still didn't get it. That afternoon, I came home from work and saw him, Dad, pacing outside my building like a debt collector powered by caffeine and spite. His hair was wild, his shirt half-tucked like he'd dressed in a hurry. He looked unwell. I didn't stop walking. "Aaron," he called, stepping in front of me. I veered slightly, but he blocked my path. "We need to talk, man to man." "I'm busy," I said flatly. "You don't get to ignore us," he snapped. "We made you." I looked him dead in the eyes. "No, you used me. And now you're mad the ATM stopped working." He grabbed my arm, not hard, but firm enough to cross a line. "Let go," I said. "You think you're better than us? You're not," he hissed. "You're just a selfish little—" He swung. Open hand, wild and uncalculated. It hit my shoulder with all the force of a damp sponge. Pathetic. He stumbled, catching himself on the building, breathing hard, sweating. He looked older than I'd ever seen him. "You're going to regret this," he panted. "I already did," I said, stepping around him. "That's why I stopped." That night I found a letter in my mailbox. Handwritten, shaky. It was from Mom. "Aaron, we're falling apart. Your father isn't well. Lindsay's a wreck. We have nothing left. You're the only one who can fix this." I read it twice. Not once did it say sorry. Not once did she ask how I was. It was all about them, always had been. I folded it neatly, set it on the counter, and made dinner for one. Pasta, garlic bread, a glass of red wine. Peaceful. They were unraveling. And for once, I wasn't the one holding the thread. By week 3, they'd moved from anger to desperation, the kind that makes people do stupid things, loud things. Lindsay was the first to crack again. She showed up at my work. Not just outside the building this time. Inside. Security called up, nervous. There's a woman here. Says she's your sister. She's crying. Loudly." "Not my sister," I said. "Let her know HR has the number for harassment complaints." I didn't go down, but I watched through the glass as she stood in the lobby, red-eyed, shouting at the receptionist like that poor woman held the keys to my soul. Eventually, security guided her out. Gently but firmly. I turned back to my spreadsheet and took another sip of coffee. 10 minutes later, my phone buzzed with a string of texts. "I hate you. I really hate you. You're destroying us. Are you happy? Please just talk to me." I didn't mean it. "I'm sorry." Classic Lindsay. Tantrum, panic, fake contrition, reset. I didn't respond. That weekend, my landlord knocked again, wincing before he even said a word. "They're downstairs again," he mumbled. "Your family." "They're not my family," I replied. "Call the cops." He hesitated. "It just feels wrong, you know? They look wrecked." I shrugged. "They wrecked themselves." He nodded, left. And 5 minutes later, I watched out the window as police politely escorted my parents and Lindsay off the property. Mom was crying, Dad yelling, Lindsay storming off, throwing her arms in the air like a B-list soap actress. But the real turning point wasn't what they did next. It was what they didn't do. They didn't call the next day, or the day after. They stopped showing up, stopped texting. Just silence. Not peace. Silence. The kind that presses on your ears until you start questioning it. I knew them. This wasn't surrender. It was recalibration. I went for a walk through the park that Sunday, headphones in, coffee in hand, pretending for a while that I didn't feel the familiar weight of them creeping in around the edges. Then I got home and found a letter under my door. Not mailed, hand-delivered. The envelope was creased, my name written in Lindsay's handwriting. I opened it with a sigh. Inside was a single line. You left us with nothing, but you were never nothing to us. For a second, I almost felt something. Guilt, regret. Then I remembered the look on my niece's face, the giggle, the way no one, not one of them, had defended me. I folded the note once, twice, then dropped it in the trash. No drama, no speeches, just paper, ink, and a lie that came too late. The truth was, I had been nothing to them, right up until the moment I stopped giving. 2 months. That's how long it took for the cracks to become collapse. I stopped hearing from them entirely. No texts, no calls, no envelopes shoved under my door. Nothing. And I'd be lying if I said I didn't check my phone more than once out of habit, like some phantom limb twitching where the obligation used to be. But the silence? It wasn't lonely. It was peace. I got used to mornings without guilt. Coffee that stayed hot. Evenings where I read actual books instead of angry texts from Lindsay about how I was destroying the family name by not paying her Wi-Fi bill. I even started cooking real meals, stuff with vegetables, stuff that didn't come frozen in microwavable trays. I learned what it was like to live for myself. Then, like clockwork, life tested me. A mutual friend, one of the few I kept, texted me out of nowhere. Hey, your mom posted something, you okay? I hesitated, then opened the link. It was a Facebook post, public, long, dramatic, full of vague language and pointed pity. It started with, "Sometimes the people we love most turn their backs on us." I rolled my eyes before I was halfway through. There it was, the new narrative. I was the ungrateful son, the selfish brother, the villain who abandoned his poor, struggling family in their hour of need. She never used my name, but it was all there, painted with just enough plausible deniability to keep her halo shiny. And the comments? Supportive, clueless, naive. "You're such a strong woman. Some kids just don't appreciate what parents do for them. You deserve better." I didn't respond, didn't comment, didn't reach out to correct the record. Let them believe whatever version made them feel better. I wasn't in their story anymore. But the real gut punch came 2 days later. I got a letter. Again, not mailed, hand-delivered. Same shaky handwriting. No return address. Inside were photos, old ones, me at 12, holding Lindsay's hand on the first day of school. Me and Mom baking in the kitchen, flour on my nose. A birthday party where I was maybe 10, beaming as Dad handed me a wrapped box. And on the back of each photo, a note. Not apologies. Memories. Manipulation disguised as nostalgia. A cheap attempt to remind me of what we'd had, like pictures could erase the weight of decades of being their emotional and financial crutch. I laid them out on the table, one by one. Then I got a lighter from the drawer, stepped out onto the balcony, and watched them burn. They curled, blackened, flaked into ash. And with them, the guilt. You can love the memories without loving the people who gave them to you. That was the lesson. That was the release. Because those photos didn't show what came after, and I wasn't going back. The day I knew it was over, not the chaos, not the drama, but the war itself, was the day Lindsay showed up one final time. Not at my apartment, not at my work. She found me at the bookstore. It was a quiet Sunday afternoon, golden light pouring through the windows, the kind of day that feels like it was designed for healing. I was in the nonfiction aisle, flipping through a book about boundaries. Go figure. When I heard someone clear their throat. I looked up, and there she was. Lindsay. No makeup, no fury, no entourage of guilt behind her. Just her, holding a crumpled tote bag, looking about 10 years older than the last time I saw her. For a moment, we just stood there. Then she spoke, quietly, carefully. I didn't come to yell. I raised an eyebrow. That'd be a first. She gave a weak smile, then pulled a folded piece of paper from her bag. I wrote you a letter. Thought you wouldn't read it if I mailed it. I didn't take it. Then don't waste it. Aaron, she said, her voice cracking. We're done. Dad's lost the house. Mom's living with her sister now, and me? I'm on a friend's couch. I've got no job, no savings, and no one left who'll pick up the phone. I let that sink in. She looked down, twisting the strap of her bag. I thought cutting you out would hurt you. Thought it would teach you something, but all we did was prove you were never the problem. I waited. She finally looked me in the eye. I'm sorry. Real, raw, no qualifiers, no blame shifting. And damn it, it hit something. Not forgiveness, not exactly, but acknowledgement. I nodded slowly. Thank you. She offered the letter again. I still didn't take it. Keep it, I said. Let it remind you of what happens when you treat the person who loves you like a spare tire. She didn't argue. Just stood there for a moment. Then whispered, You look good. Happier. I am. Do you think, someday, we'll talk again? I considered it. I think someday you'll understand why we can't. Her face fell, but she didn't cry. She just nodded, turned, and walked out. Quiet, alone, and that was it. No blowout, no public meltdown, just a door finally clicking shut. I stood in that bookstore for a long time after she left. Not because I was shaken, but because I wasn't. I felt clean, light, like I'd finally finished dragging a boulder up a hill I never agreed to climb. The rest of life filled in slowly, gently. I moved to a new apartment, smaller, quieter. Started seeing a therapist, not because I was broken, but because I wanted to stay unbroken. I joined a hiking group, picked up cooking for real, made friends who knew me as Aaron the person, not Aaron the fixer. The black backpack, still in my closet, empty now. I kept it, not as a symbol of pain, but as a reminder. I survived the version of me that let others define my worth. Sometimes I still think about them, not with rage, not even with sadness, just distance. I wonder if Dad still drinks cheap beer alone, blaming everyone but himself. If Mom still posts cryptic messages online, fishing for sympathy she never earned. If Lindsay is finally learning how to stand on her own 2 feet. But I don't reach out. Because healing doesn't mean returning to the fire just because you've learned how to stop burning. A few weeks ago, I ran into my niece. Yeah, the one with the $850 phone and the dagger of a mouth. She was older now, less smug. We were both waiting in line at a coffee shop. She did a double take. Uncle Aaron? I nodded. She looked awkward. You look different. I am. She hesitated, then quietly said, I didn't mean what I said. That day, I gave a small smile. But you did. She blinked, and I saw something shift behind her eyes. Awareness, maybe. Regret. I'm sorry, she said, more genuinely than I expected. That's good, I said. It means you're growing. And then I picked up my drink, walked out into the sun, and kept walking. No bitterness, no backward glance. Because sometimes the best revenge isn't rage or receipts or viral confrontations. It's peace, it's thriving. It's living the kind of life they said you'd never have without them and doing it better than they ever imagined. That's the life I have now. And they're just background noise. Faded pictures in a chapter I'll never reread. But me, I'm finally the author of my own story. And this time, I'm not writing anyone in who doesn't deserve to be there.